start our first podcast.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty weird doing a podcast without anything like really uh, ready or anything. But we'll do our best, I guess. So, I mean, yeah. How are you settling in here in Porto? What are your biggest challenges? How are you finding life here in Western Europe?
I like it really. Like I came here in October, and yeah, compared to the life I had back in India, it's the complete opposite. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
social life was next to nothing back in India for me,
Hmm.
and here it's like literally like I've been more and more social. It's like I've started a new life, you can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you do talk about that. You do talk about that a lot. It sounds like it's quite a very like foundational experience for you, or it's really it became part of your identity, like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Isolation. I wouldn't maybe call it that, but yeah, that at least that cultural shock. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like literally I can see myself becoming more and more extrovert these days.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think it depends on the environment quite a lot and the kind of people you are surrounded with, you know?
Yeah.
That
I
also
mean,
plays a,
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I'm kind of, yeah, but there are some things that are I'm still kind of curious. Like, would you say like that that experience that you had is like um widespread? It's generalized. Like, there's a lot of people who have like probably the same mm, background or upbringing that you have, or is it
Yeah.
a cultural thing, or is it just something specific to the place where you specifically were?
Yeah, I think it was the specific place.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, it was just maybe the dynamic of how my life panned out. You know, I had very less
Yeah.
friends.
Hmm.
And there were no social activities. Even if there were, the people were not in my age group per se. They were really young or really old. So there was
Okay.
never this synchronization of, uh,
Yeah.
thoughts and whatnot. Yeah. So I would say
Yeah.
it was just, yeah.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I think it was just the place where I was, because there are many places across India. Like India is quite big, it's not like
Yeah. Yeah.
Persian is
How many people live in? How many people? What's the population of India?
billion or something.
A
It's
billion. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We have
That sounds
this
about right. Yeah.
we have this race going on with China, like who is going to take the first spot.
Yeah. Who's gonna pop more out? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah, honestly, that's a sort of that's the. But okay, but like, do you guys like? Is there like life in community, or I'm asking like, okay, like take for instance, like the place where I was born, and the place I lived for most of my life. It's a pretty small town, but it's close to a bigger city, which even by European standards is quite small to average.
Yeah.
But but still, there was a for the most part, up until like I don't know, like 30, 40 years ago, there was maybe even more. There was some sense of communal life, like there people would meet outside. They would have spaces outside their houses, outside their homes, or their workplaces in which to gather and just be there, just exist. Usually some sort of collective organization, some association. And then these would just pop all over the place. There's like two or three, like even in a small place like that. It's I mean, right now maybe we're talking about like maybe 9,000 people, if I remember correctly. Um, there would be, I mean, there a bunch of associations would pop up, like theater, like there's like two or three that do theaters. There's music school. There's, I mean, the church. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
like always a common denominator through all this. Um, Football clubs, sports, sports
Yeah.
in general, clubs in general, and that would and those sorts of spaces would provide people with a community that they needed, like many people, many couples who are together today now, much older than me, obviously. They're they met in such places.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that is kind of being lost a little bit. I mean, probably mostly due to the nature of work. People work; they don't have time to spend there. And there's also um, pendulum, commuting. Yeah, pendulum movements. So people just come to the town basically to sleep and do their social reproductive work, basically to prepare for the next day. And there's no place to stay and just, or time to stay and just exist.
Yeah.
So that leads to a loss of community, because then if you don't do this, then probably your kids won't, and then your kids also won't, even though they still feel that need for community, and they go look for it elsewhere, even though sometimes it isn't there. And honestly, I don't think that there's really like a real suitable replacement for actual community and in the flesh, like being there around people working towards whatever,
Yeah.
So yeah. So my question is, I look, I take it that is pretty much the same where you
Yeah.
come from.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a different tinge, but
It was
yeah.
religion, the common denominator, and through that, different things spanned out. So, religion
You
was
mean
the thing that
church?
church,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is what
Okay.
provided the community activities and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
So everything went through the church. Yeah. You're a religious person.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But do you like go to church, or do you believe, or do you,
yeah, I do believe, and I used to go to church every Sunday up until the lockdown hit. But after lockdown, yeah, things have gotten to a downtrend, I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
not a lot
Okay.
of church going at the moment. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I do believe. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, because church is always there in every moment of our life. Born, or have kids, and
yeah,
die. I mean, and that's pretty much it.
it's always there.
Yeah. Um. But yeah. But okay. Well, I mean, that's not really. Yeah. But. Yeah. But then again, I mean, it always these sorts of spaces also, I think, kind of hinge on these like social constraints as well. They obey a certain structure. I mean, for instance, I would find, at least for me, for my case, I found that there wasn't really. I didn't feel like very much welcomed in any of them. Like either you fit the mold or you're not there. So they can be they do play a fundamental role, but in some regards they might be exclusionary in some sense. No, that's why, it's an invaluable, it's invaluable for me to live in a city where and it's an incredible privilege where I get to I mean, if I'm not comfortable here, I can go there, and there's always different people with whom I can connect and get that sort of community.
Yeah,
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 so
yeah.
yeah,
So
as you said about constraints or rules, that
mhm,
anything that provides a sense of community, like that is always there, whether it be religion or something else. There are always this set of rules that a community has to follow, right? So
yeah,
you kind of have to change yourself to fit in the mold. I believe it's everyone
yeah,
has those feelings. I think, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, like anything in particular like that made you, you know. I mean, I don't want to like get like too personal or anything, but I mean, if you'd like to share.
It's like when it comes to religion, like you have to show your
Mm,
enthusiasm of how good of a religious person you are. Like
yeah. Mm,
yeah. So that kind of welcomes you into the community. And if you do a little bit of things here and there out of the set of rules, then you are like the odd one out. So
yeah.
yeah, I still remember this moment from my high school. So
Mm,
I basically studied in a Catholic high school. Through all
yeah.
my schooling was in a Catholic school,
Yeah.
and right next to the school was the church, the Catholic church. So the priest from the church, they were also the vice principal, the principal, the teacher, the priest and the sisters. So I remember I was not attending one of the class, and I was bunking basically. You know what bunking is?
Bunking. I don't know what that is.
It's basically to miss your class and go and do different things.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't I don't
Yeah.
remember the English term of it. To skip class.
Skip. Yeah, you're skipping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just roaming around school, and one of the priests saw me, and I was like, I kind of wanted to dodge uh, the
Mm,
the interaction we would have. So I kind of asked him, "Where's
yeah.
the toilet? Where is the toilet?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Me
Yeah.
being in the
Yeah.
school for most of my life, and I go and ask the priest, "Where is the toilet?"
Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So from that
Mm,
moment onwards, I realized that he kind of told this thing to people around the church as well. So people started to know, oh, he skips class and whatnot. So there are
oh.
these kind of things at play, even in, you know.
Mm,
So
okay. Yeah. So
you
yeah. So it's a
you
really
feel,
tight knit. Yeah. So it's a
yeah,
tight knit community. Like
exactly.
you. Yeah. Okay.
So even if you
Yeah.
like step out of the line, like even a little bit, everyone will, oh, he did that, oh, he did that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That sounds pretty. Like pretty oppressive environment. Oh,
I
look. I would.
guess, yeah.
Yeah, I would say like here pretty much be the same thing. If you're like more in this like church, I mean in those
I wouldn't
in
say
these
just
ones.
about the church. I would say any kind of community,
Oh,
even in office
definitely.
politics, right? Oh, he did that, he did. I think any
Yeah.
community you go to, this will always be there because there are people who play different
Oh
politics.
yeah.
That's their career.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So you will
Yeah.
always find those bad apples in your communities, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. We're right about that. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So but now okay. Now you're coming here, and but why though? Like why did you choose to
So like,
this like this? Why did you choose this?
yeah. So I always wanted to move out of the house. So in
Mm.
India, we have this culture of living with an extended family, with your parents. If
Oh
you're
yeah.
married, you stay together. Okay, you can get your own house, but you don't live that far. You are not independent like
Yeah.
that
Completely.
early on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Absolutely
that's
familiar. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
yeah. So that's
Same.
one
Yeah.
of the factors. And I was like, I need to get out of the house. So the first time I tried was when I tried to do masters in engineering in Australia, but that was like the university was not that good, and I did not like to continue there. So I came back within a month. So that was one of my first failed attempts of getting out of the house.
Yeah.
And then, there was this long phase of depression and whatnot. And after 8 years, I wouldn't say after 8 years, after 6 years, I got the opportunity to work for a US company remotely. So I took on that opportunity. I met new people online, and I met my mentor through this phase of my life. And I told him literally that I want to get out of the house, build my own life somewhere else other than India, because that was always there in my heart to just go out and be like an explorer, see what happens, go out there and
Yeah,
live.
exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
Europe was one of the place in my mind. So our company, like let's say I was working for the American client, and the
Hmm.
middleman was the company that I work for now, that is in Porto.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
he
So it's
suggested
based.
that,
Yeah, all right.
yeah. So he suggested to me that if you want to get out, then yeah, let's do it. And you work for us full time, and we'll get you to Porto. So that was like my first step into getting out of the house, coming to Europe, to Porto, and yeah, we'll see what happens next. But for the time being, Porto is the place to explore. About
Yeah.
myself, about the place. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah.
What
Yeah. That's
about you?
pretty.
What
Yeah.
about
Tell me.
you? Did you never
What?
felt like getting out of Portugal?
That's a tough question, actually. That's a good one. I mean, one time by a friend that I think I still have. I think she's still my friend.
Yeah.
By the way, if she's ever watches this, hey, shout out to Zelda. That I was I She felt I was rooted, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I thought that was a good way to put it. I'm pretty rooted to the place where I was born, even though I don't live exactly in the place I was born,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So moving abroad has never been that much of a challenge, or a desire for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I don't know why. I'll look, at least like for my closest acquaintances. They would always move for economic reasons.
Mm-hmm.
It was usually never a desire to go out and explore, and most of the time that's the reason, I believe. But yeah, I mean, it just never came about, I think. Also, I mean, I am pretty, and that is a personal thing of mine. I'm pretty reluctant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty reluctant to change. I mean, I remember like the first time I was trying to, the first and only time now,
Yeah.
that I was trying to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to buy a house. I mean, and honestly, like when you're talking about the things about your, like the tradition, the way traditional families are organized in India, the place where place where we come from, it's it felt pretty similar. And also, when it was time for me to find a place, I had a partner at the time, but we both at the time decided that we wanted to stay to stay near our hometown,
Mm-hmm.
at the very least near our hometown, because then we would have. I mean, obviously, we already knew the place. It's a nice place, so to speak, by itself. So, and I mean, we had our jobs there, and it was, and then I think the biggest contributing factor was the support structure.
Mm-hmm.
Having like both my parents and her parents in the in the vicinity. It's not like they're down the street, but sometimes they might as well be. So it was sort of also like a cultural thing. I mean, and I've also like, look, no one in my family, my immediate family at least, has migrated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that I've ever like dealt with since I was a kid. Like people around me they would just live there and work there and stay as much time as they could near the place that they were born. There were like no people who had. I mean, there was one, but I only found out about it like very later on. My godfather. I think he was working in before settling again back in Portugal. He worked in Canada and he worked in Australia. I think South Africa as well.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think that's really the only case. So when it came time to go out, I mean, that was just never in my field of view. It was just never in my. So then I went through a period of like after moving, I went through a kind of a weird period actually. After moving out of my parents' house, so I did the same thing when I was a kid, I lived in a multi-generational home.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, so it was my grandparents' house.
Yeah.
My mom left them. My uncle lived there as well. Then my dad married my mom, and he joined in the family. So it was still everybody was living in the family. Then I was born, and then my sister was born. So at some point we were seven people. We're seven people living in a single house, like 3 bedrooms. But it was. I mean, I remember like being the house. Like there was always somebody around the house. It was good to have more. And besides that, the house next door was where I also had family there. Mm-hmm. My godmother, she lived there with my godfather, and two kids who were older than me, and I always treated them as cousins. Yeah. So it was always like a big. I would just go back and forth between the houses. The door would never be locked. I remember like being able to just do that. I would just go there for no reason, because I felt like it, just spend some time there. So I remember like my godmother picking me up from kindergarten, and then from primary school. So there was a support structure. This is exactly the kind of shit that we were just talking in the beginning, Mm-hmm. So that made me feel always quite rooted, So when it came time to perhaps leave, I moved out of my parents' house. I moved out of my parents' house with my partner. This is like another thing. Yeah. So another thing. So my uncle he moved out of the house when he got married. It's still, it was still pretty common. I think like maybe still today. Common, I think maybe.
In India as well. That's a common thing. You get married. And
you live.
More. Yeah.
You get married, then you move out. Yeah. Sometimes you get married, you go live with your in-laws. That also happened quite a lot. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when it was time for me to find a house, we were already living like in this environment. So we were thinking about that. We were thinking in those terms. Yeah. And as far as I know, I mean, my partner is my former partner at that time. She's still living there, so I never considered that option. And besides, I think my training, my skills, my professional the professional direction I took never really lent itself to that. And then on a personal note, when I actually moved out of my parents' house and started renting, and then after that, like owning a home, routine settled in.
Yep.
So it was basically like coming home, going to work, coming home every day, spending time with my partner, like doing couple life. But at least for us, it got stale pretty quickly. If it wasn't already, it got stale pretty quickly. So what would I do? I would go out on walks. I walked all over the place, my hometown, many times. I say that going on walks is an exercise in nostalgia.
Yeah.
Because to me, I would go. Sometimes I would go to primarily I would go to places of my childhood. I would go see places of my childhood, and then look for some other like trails, paths, some more isolated areas. But it's at some point it became like real routine, like I felt enmeshed in the physical space. I was like, this is my space. It was if I didn't have like a community, because I was just going to work, having like boring house life, and then my community, so to speak, would be the physical space, the houses that I would pass by, trees that are always there. So that made place take a sort of a life of its own, and made me really feel connected, but connected not in I don't think in the long run it wasn't like a very good place to be in, because you get rooted and also you get stuck.
Yeah.
So then I moved to Porto, and then I moved to Porto, and it got a little better. I mean, I thought that I could never like live without being in that place, and without constantly like going there every once in a week to see if things remain the same, But now I look back at it, and it seems just so, well, in a way, I wouldn't want to say sad, it's not, it is, but it is, it is sad. It's nostalgic. It sort of feels that I've crystallized, and I'd like stopped in time, and then there was like nothing else. Everything I would be doing for the rest of my life is just go there and check that everything remains the same.
Yeah.
Exactly, including myself. So pulling me out of that, so ending my relationship, moving out of the house, finding a place to live in a different city, forcing me to, living alone. I've been living alone for 3 years at this point. I mean, or 3 years. Been living alone for 3 years at this point. And I don't know many people who have lived like alone for that long, or at all. So it forced me to do all those things. Forced me to establish relationships, because again, I didn't have a social circle. I lost my partner. My family stayed there, obviously, but I don't have time to just go back and forth, so I have to make friends here. I have to figure out how to do this, and like doing this with finding a community, finding people, establishing relationships in like after your 30s, After
Yeah.
you're 30, I, while you have a job, while you have a full-time job, while there's still a pandemic going on,
It's difficult. Yeah.
while and then you don't have a playbook. You don't know what to do because you've never done this before. Because it's the
Yeah.
first time. Because for me, it was the first time in my life that I had to figure out how to do this like with intention. Because before it was just okay. You go to places, you hang out in places, and
It just happens naturally. Yeah.
just happens naturally,
Yeah.
But now you don't have infinite time. You don't get to go to university anymore. Maybe you're lucky and you have some colleagues at work who can also be your friends.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, which wasn't.
Otherwise,
I don't think it was really my case. And yeah, that's it. So it forced me to think about this, to figure it out, to try stuff, to go places, to meet people that I never thought I would meet, and to like rekindle old relationships too, even if they're not like close now.
Yeah.
They still feel like very warm, and it's I usually like a lot of times I say I don't have old friends. I don't have close old friends. I don't have a person who's like, or people who are with me regularly and that I know for like ages, and that have been there all my life,
Yeah.
I don't have that. But sometimes I think about it, maybe that's not really true, or it's true in a sense, because I do have old friends. I do have old friends. I do have people who have known me for quite a while, even though they're not close all the time. Because again, they have kids, they have their works, they have their own partners, they have a bunch of responsibilities. So they don't have time.
Yeah.
They don't have time to nurture those relationships. But you can just talk to them, just text them, and that love is still there.
Yeah.
And if those people remember you, they know where you've come from. It's always a good starting point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a little bit of effort to remind myself that there are people here, and then one thing I figured out is you can really like make friends very fast. Like if the person is a real good friend, is a good, like, you connect really, and you go through something together, or you accomplish something together, or whatever. It takes time, but you don't like, it takes like a year or two, maybe 2 years, and you're always looking at that person like, God damn, I've been with her for like 2 years at this point, and it feels like a lot. So you don't, so it's I mean, I shifted that perception, and I wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's why, like, the friends that you make during your schooling or during your college years, like 1, 2, 3 years you are together, and that's how the bond becomes stronger. And then you are like, okay, you know a lot more about that individual. You stay friends for like a longer period of time. That's why those kind of friendships stay longer, I guess. Yeah. Even though you don't communicate every day, maybe you meet after like 5 years. Also, the love is still there. The relationship, the friendship is still there.
And I don't tend to think that love actually dies. I mean, if love is there, you still have the memories, you still have the affection for that person. It feels like it. I mean, if it's like like a real, like a good relationship, it's gonna feel like like it was the last time. You pick up where you left off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, yeah. So yeah, but it is a tough process. And but in that process, I mean, I've learned a whole lot about myself, and I'm still learning incredibly, like so much about myself. Like there's and even like in this past few weeks, I've learned so much, and I've been put in so many situations where I wouldn't be, where I still in the place I was born, you know, in the same relationship, you know. Yeah, sure, I would.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we got a few more minutes.
Yeah. Okay, you were saying you learned a lot about yourself these past few weeks.
Yeah, this past few weeks, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you want to like a real, just a very concrete example, like
Sure.
Just these last few months, it was just okay. In these last couple of months, that I've been told that I tend to not look people in the eye when I talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I went through all my life not knowing this, not noticing it even. And now I noticed it. People have pointed it out. And yeah, and I started thinking, why would I do that? Is it normal? You know, like, do people do that? I started noticing when people actually do that, you know, and that means something.
Yeah.
And you know, I started digging a little deeper, you know, and I got to some conclusions, you know, about my life and my upbringing, and which led to that. But and now I'm conscious of it. I notice when it happens, or I try to, and I try to combat it. I mean, it's a little hard now because, you know, I'm kind of looking at the camera and whatnot, you know. But yeah. But you get my point. Yeah. So it's I feel like I'm pretty sure you feel the same, that I should have gone through this when I was like early 20s, mid 20s at the very least, you know, not in like your mid 30s, but whatever.
That, you know, life life always throws a curveball, you know.
Oh yeah. Definitely. You know, but you know, sometimes it feels good, you know, to get that curveball, you know, even if it's painful, and it is painful. But I wouldn't honestly now. I wouldn't have traded it. I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's why, you know, I never moved abroad. Never had that, but it feels good. I feel, even though I'm rooted, I feel good like in the city, because there is still so much to discover about this. I don't have that much time. So what a little time I have to explore is a precious thing. And there's like so many people like passing by, and I've seen this city ever since I was a kid, and it's immense, the transformation that it went through. Both good, for the good and the bad, you know, but it is striking to see how different it is now, and how I used to relate to it, and now how I relate to it now, how I see myself embedded in the space. So I think I'm in a privileged position, because I'm still kind of new here, but I'm still a local. It feels like it's starting to feel like home now. Now it's starting to feel like home. Yeah. It's starting to feel like real home, you know. But it's not there yet. But I'm still in that position where I have like all the perks of being a local, you know, like speak the language, understand the culture,
Yeah,
no places that, you know, I've known since my childhood, but still there's a sense of wonder because again, I mean, all these new people that are coming, mostly, you know, foreigners, obviously, who are bringing like so much, so it feels like a new place.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
can relate to that. Like back home, the place where I lived, it was not a tourist destination or anything. So you rarely saw anyone from outside of your country, you know.
mm,
So maybe living in that situation, it will feel different.
yeah,
Like things were getting stale, you know, the
yeah,
same
yeah,
people always. No sense
yeah,
of change in culture, no exposure to different cultures. So things might get stale. But
yeah.
like backtracking to what we were talking about, like so you feel rooted here. That's why you like to stay here. Do you
Now,
think
yeah,
that
yeah.
do you think that that is something related to the genetics or something? Because I know that my grandparents, they moved out of their house early on to explore for a better life, for better money, better economy. So I know that they moved from one part of the India all the way to north, like middle north, to make a better life for themselves. And so maybe I think that is something in our own blood, in our genetics, that maybe a generational thing, that okay, if you are explorers, your generation will always have that craving to go out and explore. Or
You know,
do you think that is something
well,
there?
well, first of all, no.
Yeah,
Second, I'm gonna like be lyrical, about it now.
yeah,
So there's like this saying that the Portuguese are famed for having like went out, gone out and explored the entirety of the world.
yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, we here in Portugal, we are the descendants of the ones who stayed behind.
Ah,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
So the explorers went out and stayed,
Yeah.
and we're the ones who didn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So that there's this sense of that kind of explain. I mean, it's just like a silly, just a silly fable, but yeah, just it's pretending to say that that sort of explains our what is perceived to be our cultural heritage, or our I don't know, zeitgeist, maybe, our our collective consciousness of being rooted, connected to your land, being connected to your family, and to your very traditional values and ways of living.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's complete. I think it's absolutely complete bullshit. Because as you just demonstrated, people respond to their environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think I'm the way I am because it's again, people around me didn't immigrate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I think the first time I saw a Spanish person in the flesh,
Yeah.
I mean, I was already a grown up, probably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then then you see like I don't know, like a Dutch person or a German. Are you crazy? And now they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Now I'm talking to a guy from India. What the fuck?
Yeah.
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 So yeah. Yeah. Except there were. Yeah. But anyway, it doesn't. So going abroad to other places in Europe, let's say, was never in the cards.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the notion with which I was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And then life at home is just comfortable. So there was never like that light under my ass, that fire under my ass to go out and at least not if to explore, at least just leave this behind,
Mm-hmm.
So I think in the end that kind of worked against me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just think that, I mean, in the end, people are connected to their land, everybody wants to have a place they want to call their own. Yeah, and if it's not the place you were born, I mean, you want to build a home somewhere. Everybody wants to do that. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think it's only normal. I mean, it's like ingrained in us. Not everybody, okay, but in a general sense, I would say that.
Somewhere. Yeah.
I wouldn't like call it genetic or anything, but I mean, there are people who have like more propensity to change and to exploration and to not being afraid of whatever might come in the future, and other people are less so. Some people are much, much less so, but that's only due to their upbringing and whatever happened in their lives. So yeah, I mean, no, I don't think it's anything like genetic or anything. I mean, there might be something there, obviously, but, but who knows,
Let's get a biologist or a scientist or someone.
Well, how the fuck are you gonna? How are you gonna fucking measure it? How are you gonna measure that shit?
I have no idea, but it's a good question to ask them.
No, actually, no. I mean, this is like a thing in psychology. I think like the openness to new experiences. I think the trait, like one of the big 5 traits. So one of them is openness to new experiences. So I guess that would qualify. That would qualify here. So that's that's, you get a psychologist in here, but it's pretty well understood, I believe. I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any other topics that you want to discuss, or should we wrap up the first episode of our podcast?
No, I think I can wrap this up. Yeah, this is a good test run, I guess. This is a pretty cool test run. I mean, maybe next time we could come like prepared and not, just talk shit all the time, just, for like an hour. But I think we did well. Yeah.
It was really nice. Like there's all this without any topics to discuss. Like imagine if we have certain topics to discuss. And
imagine if we actually had put some effort into this.
Oh yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the first episode. We still don't know what we have to name, what we have named. Like, have you thought of the name for this podcast or something?
Yeah.
We still have to think about it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe should have done that before. Now
no worries. We'll put it out there.
Look,
see,
there's all kinds of shit on the internet. Exactly, okay, this is not nearly the worst thing that we could have done.
Yeah.
Fine. We're fine. Okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah. So, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. It was really nice. I mean, even though some things we had already gone over, but it's
it was nice. I think. This would be.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah.
And this would be a good thing to keep it on regular, pushing out episodes, talk about life, talk about ourselves, emotions, relationships, and whatever is in between and far out. So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see you in the next episode then.
We'll see you. Bye.
Of course then. Bye-bye.
Bye. And we're done. Yeah, cool.